people who want to come and have a chat. So we've had a few news items the last few days as well. You know, the fact that all of the authentic decals are out again, and my God, is there many of them.
You give me that gasoline and I'll gain ground with it. I'll kill Germans, too.
So that'll
give me
be
400,000 gallons, I'll go to Berlin.
Really nice on the fact that, you know, we have that. The fact that there's a bunch of different decals which are around the place. And we can, you know, pretty much just play through most of these. I'm going to be doing, personally, a little bit of the Chinese one today, just while we pretty much just, you know, do the Fireside Chat. I feel like the way to do Fireside Chats for me is to actually just play bombers, because I can kind of turn off my brain a bit and still play. So that's basically what, you know, I'm going to do. The other thing as well is we do have a few questions straight away, basically asking about, you know, certain things such as double or ice cap from Tim's. It's always got to be an ice cap every time. Thank you for the follow, Monstorm. That's very kind of you. And then also, I did have to shave the beard. It's still kind of there, but it's not there in its full form. So yes, I'm definitely less caveman today. And pretty much, it's just one of those things that you got to do, you know? Sometimes you just have to shave the beard to make sure that, you know, everything is a little bit more clean. And also, you know, with a lot of places closed, it's not always good to get the supplies for making sure that everything works well. So basically, we're having a look at to see what is going on. Chapscu asks, when the Italian Grand Prix came out, didn't they have a system where if you got a few of the tester stars, 2 I think, then you unlocked rank 1? Then if you get some more member test stars, then you unlocked rank 2 and so on. Did they take that system out, or have I misremembered unlocking the tree? There was definitely a system like that. They also did with the American tech tree back in the day, and also I think the Japanese ground tech tree, where they would unlock like ranks as you went. So like 1 week they'd unlock rank 1, and then the next week rank 2, then the next week rank 3, and so on and so forth, which was pretty interesting. It was kind of a cool little thing, you know, going on. So let's get our first person in, who of course is Sith. So how are you doing, Sith?
Am I? Yeah, things been going good. How about you?
Oh, they're going all right. Obviously, it's a little bit dodgy at this time with all the isolation stuff, but mainly it's been going okay. Just going a little bit stir crazy sometimes.
Yeah, I can understand that, but I've been taking this opportunity to do what I do best, and that is not masturbation. That is writing.
Oh, well, that's good. So what have you been writing?
I've been writing the 3rd installment of the Tao Samenga series, Tao Samenga Book 3, The Quest for the Crown of the Dead.
Crown of the Dead? So
Yes.
how far are you through it, or have you? I don't know. Like, what is the ideas that you're trying to put into this book? Like, what themes are you trying to add which are different to the other ones?
Well, following on from the last installment where the main character, Seth, I'm trying to put this in a way that's as spoiler-free as possible, has a realization, gets this giant fleet. Someone was like, nah, can't be doing that. So they kill him. And he goes to hell and will Kratos Doomgeist style battle his way out of hell whilst also dealing with the fact that he's been there before as one of the rulers of hell.
That sounds pretty interesting.
Yes.
So when it comes to the trilogy of books that you are creating, is that going to be the end of the series, or are you thinking of expanding it beyond that point?
Oh no, there's going to be about 11 in this series. The next series is going to be about 7, then 5 in the prequel series, and after that, there's going to be the sequel to the sequel series. It's a big project.
So a lot of stuff going on, and obviously during this time of lockdown, it gives you a little bit of help, I suppose, with your, artistic abilities in a way. I mean, we've seen a lot of people take up many different things that they normally wouldn't do, whether it be gardening, whether it be, painting and stuff like that. So, in a way, do you think this like lockdown period has helped you at all, or do you think it's just increased like the amount of time you would normally have to spend on, your writing endeavors?
To be fair, the lockdown hasn't really affected me much. I mean, since the farm is in a special education centre, it's been allowed to remain open. So my daily life has gone uninterrupted, really, and, well, yeah, just on schedule. This third book is going to be split into 2 halves, because that's what we do sometimes. Yes, look at Harry Potter, I'm allowed to do that as well. And, I was going to say, no, I've just been able to get on with the first half.
Well, that's good. So when it comes to obviously you said you're finishing the first half. Are you going to release it as 2 halves at separate times?
Yep.
Okay.
And I will also be releasing a Founders Edition, which will contain not just the full third book, but will contain all 3 books at a discounted price in one large book. That will be known as the Founders Edition.
Cool.
And will only be available for a limited time.
So what's the expected ETA on this?
The first half will be available for Christmas, as per usual. My goal is to always get a book for Christmas done. And the second half will be available the following Christmas, as with the Founders Edition.
Well, that's pretty nice. Is there anything else that you want to chat about while you're here?
Well, I mean, how's things been with you? How have you been finding the isolation period, or have you been able to get things done?
For me, so I'm seen as a necessary worker or essential worker, so I'm still working, none of that's changed. The wife has been, basically furloughed right now, so she's kind of bored out of her mind. Basically, at least for me, the only thing that's changed is the majority of places around me are closed. So a lot of the restaurants, a lot of the shops. So it's just, for me, it's just generally about the same, apart from there are certain places, I'm not allowed to go anymore. So
I'm sad that the pub's closed.
Yeah, that definitely sucks. But I'm sure, hopefully in time, it'll be open again.
To be fair, my theory on the matter is that come August, everything will be back to normal.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see what the powers that be.
Yeah. I mean, in Britain now, the cases are starting to... We've had our peak, and now we're starting to slowly decline. We went from a few nasty cases of over 1,000 a day of deaths, and now we're about 700 or so.
Well, that's good. Definitely means that, yeah, it is on the decline. I'm not sure if it's the same over here, but, I mean, we'll see. It just is, unfortunately, one of those we'll see things. So, anyway, thank you, Sir, for coming on. It's always nice to have a chat. And
yes, I look forward to speaking to you whenever.
As always, Sith, have a lovely day, and I'll probably talk to you later today or tomorrow. So,
fair enough.
See you later.
Just give me a bell when you need. See ya.
There we go. Always nice to talk to Sith, and obviously his author ways. I was going to say authorian ways, but I don't think that's how you say that. But anyway, it's always lovely to chat to him, and it seems like the next person is coming on, but let's just make sure that we have everything going on. I just would like to thank Jurist. Obviously, Jurist is the lad behind making sure that this runs smoothly. He is, of course, one of the Tech Hub moderators, and should be definitely thanked for stuff like this. And he's the one kind of behind the scenes, behind the curtain, making sure everything is running smoothly today. And it's just very kind, to offer up his time for this, and should be commended for it. Also, if you didn't know, we are doing a bunch of giveaways on the TEC Discord. We are doing basically a month of isolation giveaways. So we're going to do at least 28 days worth of giveaways. So if you're interested in that, make sure to hit up the Discord. We're basically just doing 7 per week for a month. So yeah, that's always going to work well. Now let's talk to the next individual, and the next individual is Winters. How are you doing, bud? How is life?
I'm doing all right. Just another day in quarantine.
Yeah, I know how you feel. So what is it that you want to talk about today?
So I've been playing since 2012, I think. I can't remember. It's been that long. And just recently, I completed my second bomber tech tree, which is the Russians, and I love the idea of the Russian bombers, like with the tail guns and all that.
Yeah.
But I'm finding it's hard to play, like the IL-28 and TU-14 at 8.0, just because you get intercepted so much more easily. Which I'm fine with being intercepted, but it's the air-to-air missiles.
Yes.
So what I was thinking is, it seems like we're getting tech or BR compression, and the only way I can really think of fixing that is extending the BR.
I definitely think extending the BR is something that can be done. Another thing that I'd also mention is when it comes to specific mechanics, because we see this in air, we see this in ground, and also in other parts, even naval. For me, the way I look at it is there are certain mechanics in the game which are just insane. They are just crazy, and therefore there should be a distinct BR gap between them and other machines, right? And air-to-air missiles is one of those mechanics. I also think stuff like jet engines as well for the majority of machines. It's never fun playing a 6.7 prop against a 7.0 jet, for example. Like a Meteor versus, something like an I-225, or even something like a P-51H. You feel a distinct disadvantage when you play, because, well, guess what? You're at a distinct disadvantage. So the thing is, I definitely agree with you when it comes to air-to-air missiles. It doesn't feel fun playing stuff like the L-28 or the TU-4, or even the L-28SH, or I think the most egregious example is maybe the TU-14T. And I think we're definitely seeing a move towards them trying to spread them out, especially with the lowering of the BR of the TU-4. But would you, instead of the trying to expand the BRs, would you be in favor of a system where they just basically stuck a wall between certain BRs? Because air-to-air missiles start at what, 8.7? Is it?
I think it starts at 8.3 with the F9F.
Oh, the Cougar.
I think the German Seahawk.
Oh yeah.
The German Seahawk has them.
Yeah, of course. So would you be in favor, like, obviously with the idea of BR decompression, you would want to push everything up by what, 0.3, 0.7? What to you is the ideal thing to look at right now?
Well, I'd probably bump it up like another extra BR. So that way it gives you more room to add like future stuff without having it sweep into like the early Cold War stuff. So like you'll have your gunfighters at 9.0 still.
Yeah.
And then you go up to like 11.0 to get your air-to-air missiles, Vietnam era aircraft. So that would be like where your Phantoms are at, your MiG-21s, your all those higher tier aircraft will be higher down the road.
Yeah. So
but going back to what you were saying, that actually sparked another idea. So, like the F-100, you have amazing ground pounding ordnance, and then you also have air-to-air missiles.
yes.
What if there was a way that you could pre-select, like, yes, include the air-to-air missiles, and they'll bump up your BR, or disinclude the air-to-air missiles before you start the go to battle?
Yeah, that's the other way of doing it, and that's something I've also advocated for in the past. Like, I generally want to, going back to the first point, I generally want to do what you're doing, but instead of just, moving everything up by 1 BR, I would just literally just put a wall in. So like just say, okay, 8-3 right here. If you're 8-3, you have to get, you have to face 8-7s and 9-0s. You can't face stuff like 8-0s. So that's something I've advocated for a while when it comes to jets. When it comes to the other point, BR by modification is basically the way I see it, and it's an issue that I don't even think just affects stuff like air-to-air missiles. I think it affects a lot of stuff, especially at top tier, where at top tier. This is massively in ground, but also in air. Now that we've seen a massive addition of just more faster and better vehicles, we're in a state now where to compare a stock vehicle versus a spaded vehicle is insanity. It's ridiculous, and I definitely think the idea of if you unlock certain modifications, and maybe we have to take away the option so people can uninstall modifications, or maybe we would have to make it so if you had specific modifications connected, then you would have to up the BR, but something has to be done. Like I think it's as simple as that. And obviously it would hit into like Gaijin's bottom line, because then they'd get less money from people GEing certain modifications. But there will be other ways or other avenues of monetization which I think would work, and it would definitely mean that parts of the game, like, people will play more. Like, I personally will play more. Like, when it comes to rank 6 and rank 7, one of the things that puts me off the most is the fact that I have to take a stock vehicle against something that I can't do anything against.
Yeah, I am the same way. Like what was it? I think it was. I'm grinding out the British line and facing Russian heavy armor. Like, I can't penetrate it from the front, and what they want me to do.
Address this issue, whether it's through like rewards, whether it's through maybe playstyle changes. I don't know, because the thing is the way you survive in these larger bombers, especially at higher tiers, the easiest way to play them is to basically fly away from the battlefield for 10 minutes and then turn around.
Yeah, the only thing I can really think of is maybe set out the spawns on maps differently. So like you have your fighters spawn, so the fighters will fight the fighters, and then the bombers and ground attackers spawn at like a different airfield or different region.
Right.
So if the fighters are that dedicated to protect their
few new maps. In update 1.97, they changed some of the maps, so certain AI targets are worth more when it comes to ticket bleed and things like that. But we haven't had any of these like grandiose changes that we're talking about. So hopefully, at some point, maybe the issue has to get worse, or maybe the issue, has to be seen more, and maybe it gets fixed, or or like bomber pilots will be told, like they are a lot of the times, where it's, well, just go
fighters, or fighters spawn with bombers.
Yeah.
Then you at least would have the two sides conflicting, but even that could create more of an issue, because then you'll have the fighters just going straight for the bombers just because, hey, easy kill.
Yeah, exactly. And also it's the same issue of online gaming, when there's no there's no rank system or anything. It's well, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So you can you can get the fighters to spawn near the bombers, but then that doesn't mean they're going to protect them. They might just disappear. So it's like, yeah, I mean, you can make it easier for them. But then what about attackers? Because then attackers get screwed, right? Because they have no fighter support. So yeah, it's a VP game, and I don't want that really to change. Even for like drastically hurt bombers.
I'm working on the British, because I'm in love with the Lincoln.
Okay.
It is a huge improvement over the Lancasters. Are somehow inferior, but they're the same bomb to the 14 and 1000s.
Yeah. Which is very weird.
Yeah.
The kind of make stories around your tank crews, kind of in a way what World of Tanks does with their crews, where they create where you have different people.
And I was like, ooh. If you have anything, just say it. Well, like the thing we either hate or love. So.
Yeah, that's very true.
Find some people to play with and have fun.
I
Do some
agree.
custom battles. Go nuts.
Different time periods as well.
Yeah, and it would take away the pressure of having to create a full tech tree for these nations. Because what you can do is you could just set up the Turans, which I believe are Romanian. Those are the ones that I always go to, the Turan tanks, because I think they're really cool, but I don't want them to be all premiums. And I would much rather have them put into the tech trees, but the only tech trees that really fit in right now is the German one. But what if we made just a minor nation, Romanian tech tree, and just make it so in order to unlock it you have to reach rank 3 Germany or something, and then you get reserve Romanian vehicles. You can put Romanian vehicles into your pre-existing German lineup, and then Bob's your uncle. I made a video maybe a month or two ago called Implementing Minor Tech Trees, and that's pretty much the idea that we're talking about right now.
To see, I mean, this wouldn't really make, well, kind of. I would love to see a Commonwealth tree. A lot of people would like to see that with, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand. Bob, just gonna plug the Bob sample real quick. Even though that wouldn't make any sense. The Canadians, all the different Commonwealth trees, you could have that. And Spain as well. Spain, I would love to see Spain. Spain is a really interesting one for me, because of the whole Lend-Lease Japan or the U.S.
You couldn't put it under Japan, trust me.
Well, the early on, but yeah.
The Japanese, right? The Japanese despise the Koreans, and the Koreans despise the Japanese.
Yeah.
There was a poll done a few years ago, basically asking South Koreans would they side with Japan or would they side with North Korea if a war broke out, and the vast majority said North Korea. So that's all you need to know.
Slovakia, which actually was that Czech Republic and Slovakia, or was it still? No, it was still Czechoslovakia during the communist bloc. But that's actually an interesting nation because it had history of being a Soviet bloc country, but after communism fell in the 90s and 80s, it split into Czechia and Slovakia.
Yeah, exactly.
So those would be interesting tech trees. Yugoslavia, which is a really controversial one, which Gaijin, knowing them, probably won't add for the next 20 years. But that would be an interesting one because they have, the modified T-72s, the T-80s, the T-64s, all sorts of different Soviet Lend-Lease products, similar to how the Spanish are.
Yeah.
You have all these different nations that don't really have any representation in the game, but it would still be really interesting to have them as countries. With the whole Soviet bloc being under the Soviet Union, I feel like they would have to bite the bullet and have to be like, well, you guys don't like the Soviets, and I don't think anyone really does anymore. You would have to put them under the Soviet tech tree because they are Soviet vehicles.
Or at least they're influenced by Soviet ideas.
Yeah,
is probably the better way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole China thing that I was talking about. Yes, it doesn't make any sense. China is headed right now. It probably won't be like that at all.
Right.
It's interesting because of the amount of countries that aren't.
So it would obviously be connected to major tech trees. Would you make it so any vehicles used by either the major tech tree or the minor tech tree can research the minor tech tree vehicles, or would you keep it specific in that tech tree?
I would, well, I would probably do kind of both at the same time, if that makes any sense. You could have higher research rates for vehicles if you're using them in that tree, but you could still play vehicles in, say, you have the Romanian tech tree and the German tech tree. You can still grind out a Romania with the Germans, but it would be decreased, or a lower percentage that would go to Romania.
And therefore, that would mean or facilitate the reason to have premiums in the minor tech trees.
And also facilitate reasons to actually play Romania instead of just, grinding out for the sake of grinding it out.
Yeah.
Because if you could just grind it out with full effect with the German tech tree, there would really be no reason to play any of the lower tier vehicles.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's a good idea. Like researching a rank 3 vehicle with a rank 1, you get a reduced rate. I think that would be an interesting idea.
I'm grinding out the A4 right now, and it's slow, but I don't really play a lot of 7.7 because of the repair cost.
Right.
So I've just been playing a lot of 6.0 with the 84 because I just got Hydras and those are amazing, and just lower tier. And I've been chugging along, but it's not as fast as say if I was just constantly playing ARB in the F3D.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's also similar to how premiums work because premiums give you higher research rates. So it would basically be a negative effect where it wouldn't be as effective as if you were just playing in that tech tree. It's with the Romanians, they have their own tanks. It's not like it's a completely different vehicle how helicopters are. It would be, tanks that you could grind through that tech tree, but also with help from the main tech tree.
Yes. The last thing I was talking about, I wasn't talking about, I was about to talk about, was the idea of, so whenever a new tech tree is introduced now, the way they do it is they do it in a CBT format. So you can either buy into it, or you can, get the stars and the tester stars. When it comes to these minor tech trees, because a lot of them are going to have a lot less vehicles than, your standard normal tech tree, do you still think they should go through? Fine. I definitely agree that system does sound pretty good. The only thing I'm always worried about is if people come to the game to specifically play something and not having access to it. But then again, we've already passed that road with stuff like helicopters, right? We've already crossed that bridge, so it doesn't really matter too much. Go ahead.
Grinding through up until rank 3 is really not that hard, and you really only have to gain one vehicle. So say I was going for South Korean tech tree in the American tech tree, I would just basically grind up until the Chaffee, and then I have immediate access to it.
Yeah, exactly. And
a lot of the low tier stuff is a lot of fun, so it wouldn't be as hard as grinding up until finishing out the tech tree, getting to the M1A2 and raging at the game and deleting it and having an inactive account as a statistic.
So do you think with this method you would get rid of all copycat vehicles then, yeah?
Pretty much. I mean, it wouldn't make any sense to add a exact copycat vehicle because it's already in the tech tree. What you could do, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, is that you could have American vehicles in your.
Yeah. One of the and it does kind of create some interesting scenarios. Like you're talking about Czechoslovakia and how that worked, because Czechoslovakia after the war, World War II, they actually produced some homegrown ME-262s with better engines. So if you stuck that into like the Soviet tree, you could have these weird post-war ME-262s versus 262s. It would be very odd, but also very interesting at the same time.
But yeah, and because of the amount of vehicles and the whole, BR compression, which I think actually someone else is going to talk about it, so I'm not going to try to tread on his stuff. But mixed battles are becoming more and more of a idea rather than just factions.
Yeah.
Which is not what he's talking about at all, so I'm not going to spoil that because it's actually a really interesting idea. Because of mixed battles becoming more and more of a prospect in the future, I don't think a post-war ME-262 with better engines facing a production German ME-262 1944-1945 version would be that big of a deal.
Yeah. No, I don't think so either. I thought it's going to be really interesting seeing like very very odd vehicles fight each other, like things like the T-44M or machines like the Taz. Like it's I don't know. There's a lot of really interesting options that.
I mean, I don't really have any examples, but I'm sure you could. There are tons of vehicles that would totally fit how the game plays and how the game works that don't exist.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, the ones I talked about before, the Terrans, the post-war Heinkels from the Spanish, the
Yep.
I can't remember what it's called, the Australian P51 looking thing. There's plenty of machines that could be added. The Oliphant, those amazing machines. There's a ton of them that could be added in this way, and I definitely agree that it should be a way to facilitate that. Let's put it like that. Do you have any last thoughts for the stream before we move on?
No, not really. It's been great being on here. I'm glad that you're on board with the whole, minor tech trees and stuff like that. Gaijin, give me the B26 already. Okay.
Yeah, it's B26 time. It's been B26 time for about 3 years. So let's finally get it. Just so we can have it, and we can move on to the next thing to go. Give me this. But anyway, as always, Otto, it's a pleasure speaking to you, and
Same here.
have a lovely day. I'll talk to you later.
You too.
Twitch chat, and I would like to, as I said, thank him for coming on. The next individual who is next is, of course, the good old Lone Wolf. So how are you doing, Lone Wolf? How is your life today?
We're having a great day.
Wonderful.
What a wonderful day to be alive.
Now the sun's shining for me, and it definitely feels nice to have a bit of warmth around the place for once.
Absolutely.
So what do you want to chat about today? What's on your mind? Oh, God
So I did a lot of work and got nothing for it. So
that
that's always
sucks.
fun.
Well, hopefully
Yeah,
hopefully the next event is a little bit nicer, because it should be
Yeah.
the challenge event. So
Right. Well, and I'm just hoping somebody at Gay Junk is watch that video and they're like, oh, that guy gets that KV220 he wants. So there's always hope again.
you never know.
So my topic for today, and it might be a stupid topic, so I apologize if it is, but we're seeing the birth and the comeuppance of all of these modern vehicles coming into War Thunder, which is nice to see.
Yeah.
However, when seeing these vehicles come in, I'm more of an older style player. I like the older vehicles, and I wonder if
Question anyway, but
Okay.
the main thing is when Gaijin has ever been pressed about the topic of we need more World War II vehicles, they say the same thing, which is the majority of the game for the very long time has been just World War II vehicles. So whenever they add new World War II vehicles, it's normally incredibly sparse, and is just kind of more as their focus is going to be much more on the higher tiers of the game, or Cold War or Modern Warfare. It just kind of is how it is. So the day of, let's just say, when we look at it, every time they add in a new tech tree, you get a bunch of you get a bunch of World War II stuff. So for me, it's not as if they're disappearing, but I think the time is definitely passing for them.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I mean, I'm just awful with jets. I did a test flight on a helicopter once, and Gaijin messaged me and asked me to never do that again. So I'm pretty sure that's just where that lies for me. And yeah.
Yeah, I think so for you when it comes to the game, what part of the game do you prefer? Do you prefer like the lower tier stuff? Do you prefer like the mid tier things? Like what part of the game would you like to see emphasized in the coming updates?
I definitely like the lower to mid tier. I think it takes a little bit more finesse, as dime a dozen that word is worth. For a lot of the higher tier stuff, I feel, and especially vehicles such as premium vehicles, it's very just kind of aim and click. I mean, at any angle, what's the point? At least that's how I see it.
Yeah.
And for people that love that, good on you. Go and shoot for the stars, mister. Like, that's awesome. But I like kind of the struggle of being in a T-34 with an FL-11 cannon and running across the Panzer F2, and I can't do anything against it. His armor is strong, and I really have to work to get around him to kill him, and then it's really rewarding when you do.
Yeah, like there has to be challenge to the game, so there isn't really a disadvantage you have to work around. Like I remember talking to a guy who played the Abrams a lot, and I was like, so what is the actual disadvantage of this thing? It's like, oh well, if you turn your turret around, you have no gun depression looking backwards. And it's like, oh, is that it? That's all you have. Your engine deck is a little bit too high.
Right, but yet you can turn the hull of that tank in less than 3 seconds.
Exactly,
because
yeah.
You've got an Allison transmission that's just bullet.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same path as you. How I like the fact that a lot of the vehicles at mid tiers, like let's say rank 2 to 4 or even 2 to 5, they have defined advantages and characteristics.
Absolutely, it's like the Maus is a super well armored tank.
It makes sense to me.
Right. Yeah, and that's actually one reason why I fell in love with the game. And
the ground things, like there are a few to add, like the Leopard 2A6, 2A7. You know, they could add a bunch of different nations top tier MBTs. The T9.
I get that going. And yeah, so I'm excited for the Naval coming out. I'm hoping that Naval gets a bit of a look, maybe a bit of a revamp. But ultimately, I like the way it's going.
Yeah, I agree. I think I generally enjoy the low tiers of Naval. I can't stand the top tiers of it. But that's I feel like if in real life, if I was in a destroyer, I wouldn't like facing a light cruiser either. You know. But I'll make sure to send them over to you. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Just so you can see them, because that's something I would love to see too, through the Q&A for Tech room on the Discord, or you can just come on and have a chat in Discord itself. So let's get actually no, let's just make sure that okay, yeah, let's just make sure everything is good, everything is looking grand. So let's bring on our next guest, and our next guest is Conte Baraka. How are you?
How you doing, Tech?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right.
I'm great. I just.
So I'm guessing you're on lockdown too, then.
Yeah. Michigan was one of the first states to lock down, actually. And I work. I'm retired Marine, as you know, so I don't really work full time. I full-time parent and work part-time, and one of my part-time jobs was at a school that I don't get to do anymore, so that's kind of annoying. But yeah. But the funny thing is like there's a lot of memes running around about how veterans, especially of the Forever War in Iraq and Afghanistan during the lockdown, are like, yeah, bro, at least I got good internet this time, right?
Oh yeah.
Nobody's shooting at me, and I got good internet. This is easy.
Yeah. Oh god, I suppose when you put it like that, it doesn't seem too bad.
Although I am going nuts like everybody else. Yes, I
Oh,
will be
yeah.
completely honest. I long for contact with people besides my family.
Yeah, it would be nice at some point, maybe in the near future. But anyway, what's the stuff you want to talk about today?
Well, Tech, I've actually talked to you about this in the Q&A, but I wanted to do it officially in a Fireside chat so I could do it verbally. I believe that the existing faction system that we have in War Thunder is, at this point, with your video today, you even talked about it, how many vehicles there are at top tier. The old Axis versus Allies faction system within the realistic battle matchmaker, it's time for it to die a peaceful death and move along to a more comprehensive system.
Right. And so obviously what you're talking about is right now, at least for most tiers in realistic, we have this kind of Allies versus Axis vibe. Like it's like America versus Germany. Britain normally only faces, the Axis powers like Germany, Italy, Japan. They normally get what is even going on with that idea? There must be some specific reason. I'm just not privy to it.
I think that we're dealing with two things with Gaijin here. First off, inertia.
Right.
The inertia level for Gaijin is stratospherically high because they don't want to mess with their most successful product and accidentally break it, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
And the other one is there might be a level of balancing with this, right? Like for example, it's a really good idea for everybody who plays Russia that Germany and America can't ever be on the same team, right?
Yeah.
All right. So to address both of those concerns is, well, the way you deal with inertia is you just keep pushing until it moves.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got to keep pushing. And then as to the second thing, I have one quasi faction thing that should happen, and that is simply that America, Germany, and Russia can't all three be on the same team.
Right.
You can have a Germany and America team. You can have a Russia, Germany, Russia, America team, but you can't have a Russia, German, America plus whatever else team. Just because it's not really fair. I don't think it would happen very often, even if it was allowed, based on those are the three most heavily played trees.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And in the real purpose behind this, well, there's multiple purposes behind this. Mostly it's because I really play a lot of Italy, and I'm sick unto death of always playing with the Germans.
Yes.
But because you're used to fill out German rotation, so you're always playing with the Germans. You almost never not play with the Germans, right?
Yeah.
And there are obvious issues that I think it would help several issues. One, I think it would overall improve queue times.
Right.
Right, because you don't have to worry about, well, there's 10 Germans, 10 Americans, and 30 Russians. What are we going to do? Well, no, you just put the two Americans and Germans together and they go fight Russia, right? Yeah. In the queue, right? As an example, and I think we all have enough experience in the game to realize that it's a logical statement that we could get in the weeds all day long on, but ultimately it would help queue time.
Yes, yeah, it definitely would.
Furthermore, in addition to helping queue times, it would allow, I think, a reduction because it increases flexibility in maximum up tier and down tiers, which I have to admit are a lot better since they reinstated quantitative matchmaking. Right? It's a lot less painful to be in maximum up tier and down tiers because of quantitative matchmaking, but it's still something nobody likes.
Yeah, it still should be something that is made even harder to do. Like just in general.
Right? I think when we talked about BRD compression, one of their biggest answers was diversity, diversity, diversity. How many times in that Kirill interview did diversity come up?
Yeah, I wish. I mean, the thing that annoys me is, they said at least Kirill during that interview he did with Sean, and they were taking community questions. They kept talking about variation of vehicle. That's not. That can't be the answer. It can't be. Because there's just many other factors that go into it. Like a lot of people are just not going to play vehicles which they just keep getting their head kicked in, and it's just not fun.
Right.
Like yesterday on stream, I played 10 games in my M48, I wasn't doing badly, but I lost all 10 games. And that's demoralizing for battles, to basically get like lower queue times so they could get more battles, so they could get more information and stats on how to balance it. I don't understand why he didn't just...
is addressed.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Right. It also, in a way, I think it reduces the need for copy-paste vehicles a little bit, right? I still am not as anti-copy-paste vehicles as a lot of people are. I think done judiciously to round out trees is a good thing, because I think people should be able to be like, I'm playing... Like, for me, I really got into this game when Italy came out because I'd never seen Italy in a game before. Yeah. It's always Germany, America, Britain, Japan, Russia, right?
Yes.
And I think people playing those trees deserve, like you say, to have the full access to the experience, right? They need light tanks at every tier. They need helicopter trees. They need attack and bomber and fighter aircraft as much as possible at the various BRs, right? And so... I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of, or I'm willing to deal with the copy paste in order to just always play Italy all the time instead of having to bounce around a bunch of different trees. But I'm getting off track a little, but I think it helps with that, right?
Yes,
because by doing the copy paste, it's no longer weird. Well, like, well, they have Shermans. Yeah, so do the Americans. And guess what? I'm on the American team.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it helps a little bit with the copy-paste issue. The biggest advantage I see is queue times. The second biggest advantage I see is that diversity, right? Like, I play Italy a lot just because I find it unique, and because it's unique, I go through... Hell, I play a lot of 3-3 Italy, which a lot of people will tell you is a nightmare, right? Semovente's, the 105 millimeter Semovente is kind of different, right? Anyways, I play that, and I'm always used to round out the Germans. I don't want to always be used to round out the Germans. I would love to play every couple of matches against the Germans, right? And Thunder experience is a advantage of going to this system. Finally, I think it reduces... No, not finally. Also, another pretty good thing... Sorry, Tech. Is it reduces mixed battles.
Yes.
Right? And everybody hates mixed battles. So a reduction in mixed battles is a good thing. Another thing that I think along the mixed battle line, I think... As long as they keep introducing the other things that I can make an argument for, but I don't think is as apparent, is I think it will make the BRs of vehicles. I think it will reduce the need to use economics to balance vehicles for a lot of vehicles, not all of them, but in particular, those really expensive Italian fighters
yes.
at 4.7 to 6.0. Well, if they're fighting the Germans a lot, that cost is going to go down.
Maybe.
Again, this is an argue. Yeah. I argue this. You can debate this either way, but I think ultimately it will go down, right? Because those planes are great, but part of the reason they do so well is because you're facing you tend to pillage through the American bombers with a bunch of Doras.
Yeah.
And that just sets the tone for the whole match, which makes it easier for you to be successful in those Italian planes. If you are now fighting against those Doras, it makes it a little different, right? And again, with Japan, I think it would address some of those issues, right? And I think the Air RB 4.0 to 5.7, this would be... But, that's kind of the thing. I think, first off, it's not really historical what they do, right?
Not at all.
I mean, for example, Italy fought on both sides, very obviously. For example, I had a team the other day. I put this in I have a thread, an official suggestion thread on this, but I had a match the other day that was every nation except Britain. Every nation except Britain versus America and Japan. Why do we have factions if you're going to get a match like that?
Yeah, that is true. So let's define the matchmaking terms that you want to put in. So
Okay.
So you said you have let's just say you got the three major nations. So you got USA, Germany, USSR. You want to set up a scenario where any of them can get matched on the same team, but we have to make sure that on the opposite team the other one is there. So right. So you have like American, Germany nations just go on any side.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's basically it.
Yeah, based on who's in the queue. Another thing that this create overpowered scenarios, right? Like for, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, America, yeah. Well, that's the thing I was going to bring up. Even without the squad thing, if you implement this system, there is going to be a very very rough few months for certain BRs, where like a key one is 4-0, as you're about to bring up, because the only thing that keeps 4-0 Germany in check is America. So if you have America and Germany on the same side, they're gonna.
I would argue that 4-0 Russia is amazing
compared to the gold lineup of 4-0 Germany, which is the go-to for every sweaty person in the world. And
you know, I mean, you have
the Sherman lineup for the Americans at 3.7 and 4.0. I think both of them annihilate the Soviet lineup at 3.7 4.0.
Okay.
But we'd have to see, right? And as I said, if you put in these big changes, which I think could definitely work, there is going to be rough periods. But I think after the short-term rough period, the long-term benefits definitely
would go down or go up, or the TEC, you know, and again, I think also this allows, you know, this makes eventual BR decompression easier as well, because you're increasing the pool of people for your matchmaker, right? A lot of the things get that. And it will be rough at first, but I kind of argue like it. Okay, so that's okay at some BRs, but not at others, right? Let me think of a really good example. Like let's take
6-7.
Yes, right. Like
if you have Britain, America, and Germany on one team, and then everybody else on the other.
I mean, but right now you already have Britain and America at 6-7.
Yep.
Right, and they both have the best 6-7 lineup.
Yeah.
Arguably.
But yeah.
Right, and that's okay. Right. I don't know. I think the pros outweigh the cons, and I think also though that people is going to make a better game for everyone if we do it.
I think my only real disagreement with the idea, well, obviously you got the historical angle.
War mode. We can add more historical events in to get that flavor.
Yeah, I agree. But the other thing as well is when it comes to balancing the vehicles that we have in game, if you open it up like you would want to do, that would mean that there would be way more vehicles that each vehicle has to match up against, and therefore when it comes to actually balancing these vehicles, it would be harder to do, because you have to think of so many different more factors. Instead of just dealing with 2 or 3 or 4 vehicles you normally deal with, now you're up to 10, maybe even 15. So,
but I'll ask you, has it drastically affected top tier jet RB?
Yes, it's basically meant that people only play 1 or 2 specific jets.
Right, but is that because of BR compression?
No.
Or something else?
No,
you don't think so?
No, I think.
I think everybody plays the same jets at 8.7.
Even mentioned 5 years ago, we had the same issue, and the issue was the Canada Air Sabre, and everybody wanted to play the Canada Air Sabre or the F2 Sabre, and it was just one of those things where people just wanted to play the best vehicles.
Right.
And that is just a thing at top tier. So what you see is you don't see a bunch of variations of different vehicles. Okay. But you know, and also we already have that system that you're proposing in a more extreme sense at top tier, and it definitely helps with the matchmaking, but it still has a long queue timer because of the fact that, you know, you basically just have a few people playing the same vehicles over and over again.
Me personally, I find I get into matches personally like that, like the queue pops for me. But I don't want to quibble with you, Tech. I'm not going to say that is not a legitimate concern, right? I just think that, again, the pros outweigh the cons. I mean, there's like, it's one of those things in a game that is this complex, that tries as hard as it does to be historical. You're always going to have these kinds of problems.
Yes, I agree. The other thing that would need to be brought in, because obviously matching up against so many different vehicles would affect the BR of tons of vehicles, especially stuff like planes. If we bring in this new system, we also need to bring in the system where different vehicles have different BRs depending on what game mode they're playing in. So if you're playing like ground realistic, or if you're playing air realistic, you like something like, I don't know, what's a good example?
Let's say that
that would help a lot with the balancing issues that would come from this new system over at least the first few months of the system existing.
Sure. Yeah. And again, I know those first few months might be crazy, but I think it would be a good kind of crazy. As long as you aren't stuck just in one tree at certain BRs.
Yeah.
That things out, and I don't know. I don't know. I would relish such an opportunity, but I understand that is a personal taste.
Yeah, I think, I would enjoy it. I'm always worried about people just playing the meta shit, right? And if that happens, then this could be a very, very rough few months. But then it would obviously, hopefully, get fixed. But the other thing is, you would need to do it at a time so it doesn't affect events. So you'd either have to do it between now and late June, or you'd have to do it from like July to September. Yeah. So there is time frames that it can be done in, because I don't want to go into like the summer event and having to deal with a crazy unbalanced system where, you know, like one or two vehicles rule the roost. It would be kind of very odd.
And I would say that that World War mode could be concurrent with this for sure, because of the way World War mode is set up.
Yeah, that's true.
Because World War mode isn't really done by BR. It's done, I mean, like for example, in one of the German battles, you get a handful of KV1s, right? But the rest of them are like T26s, right? Like that's not really a BR thing.
Yeah, it's more balanced on number than it is.
They prorate the vehicles, right? And maybe they use the BRs as a baseline, but they quickly adjust those prorating by how they're performing in the particular World War mode. They make those changes quick, right? Yeah. Like after one set of battles. So, but anyway, no, I just wanted a chance to talk that one out with you, Tag. I have an official suggestion on the forums. If people go there to the moderated suggestions for gameplay, it's in there if they want to put their 2 cents in or vote on it or what have you.
Yeah.
I think this is not something that will happen soon because we're dealing with Gaijin, but I would love to see this next year.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to see it at least tried, because I don't think there's going to be a failure on the systems end. I think there's going to be a failure on the trying to balance by player stats end, because there's just so many different variables that they have to take into account. But I do think it should be a system that is at least tried.
And then Tech, I just wanted to say that your stats video today was excellent, and I've shared it around, and it's a great point. And I would also like to say that I don't know if your personal crusade to get old decals into the to the market or whatever. Whatever. I've been a huge proponent of that idea as well. And victory! 2 months in a row, extra or 2 sessions in a row. And did you see that this month in the Warbond shop they're offering all of the Zodiac signs again?
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? It's
it should have been like this a long time ago. The problem is they're not monetizing this very well, which is what they should do, so we can get the grind down. But that was one of your other 6 months old.
That's
anyway. Went down finally.
Oh
right?
yeah,
like,
yeah, that's another win. Thank God.
It's just there are these certain things that are happening that you're just like, why did you take so long to do this? It wasn't self-evident like 2 years ago.
So when they pushed down the Mark V, I ground it out, and after the first day, I had a 14% win rate.
Because all the Germans were playing 9.0 new KPZ 70, which is leveled off now because you got the word out, so all the schlubs are now playing 9.0 Germany, so it's more balanced now.
Thank God. But so my final stats in the Chieftain Mark V, I've spaded it now. So I have 88 kills, 60 deaths, 31% win rate, over 70 battles. So. Yeah, it was rough. Let's just put it like that. Just getting ran over by Radkampfwagens and KPZs.
And again, but this is one of those things that I would hope could affect some change, right? Because the other nation that has a baller 8-3 lineup is France.
Yes,
France has a baller 8-3 lineup, and if Britain could fight France all the time, right? I know they can, but I think you get what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
We have all these limitations on battles that I think are entirely too artificial, and
they were also brought in way before we had all of these other nations.
Yes.
In order to bring in all of these new nations and also try and there should be a new system created around them. It's as simple as that. Instead of trying to jerry rig old stuff and new stuff into the old system, just make a new system. Make it so much easier.
And again, too, I think the player base is ready for that as long as you keep offering them a steady diet of events where you get historical matchmaking. I mean, I personally don't play the historical events because I usually find them to be unbalanced. But people like that stuff. So again, you're going to want to keep offering that, but I think it needs to come out of the mainstream game. This would also, not right now because Germany's got the Graf Spee, but ultimately we get away from all mixed battles in naval like this if the Japanese and the Americans could play on the same team, so to speak. Right? I just think it just makes all sorts of other changes easier to do in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that. Is there any last points you want to bring up or comments?
No, I think I covered it all ad nauseum actually.
Forward, and I definitely think this is one of the steps they should take as well.
Thanks, Tech. I appreciate the time.
But as always, it's always wonderful to talk to you, Baraka.
Hey, is there somewhere I could link that, again, it's a moderated suggestion for this, so people can go debate it in front of Gaijin?
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll give you should have this role anyway, but I'll give you the historian role.
Okay.
And you can stick it in War Thunder historian data on the channel.
Got it.
And then what I'll do is I'll put it in the description of the video when this goes up on YouTube, so people can check it out.
Thank you very much, Tech. I appreciate it.
All right, bud. See you later.
Have a good day.
You too. So there we go. That is pretty much all the people who wanted to come on. It's 2.5 hours in, and I would just like to thank Dugo and also I Hate Juiz or Uiz. And also, while I'm here, since I want to finish this battle and get this one done, let's open it up to the Twitch chat. So, do you guys have any questions? or any thoughts that you want to get out there right now. So I can actually, answer them on the fly while we're, finishing them off. Because basically what I want to do is I want to be able to open some boxes on stream just to see what we get. I have 6 boxes ready to go. Well, let's see. Get B26. I agree with that. It would be lovely to see the B26 or even just the Marauder for a premium for Britain. Something similar would be great. Why is the Easy 8 at 5.7? The Easy 8 is at 5.7 mainly because it has a stabilizer and also a gun that can penetrate anything that it touches. The only thing that it struggles against is 6.7 heavies, and generally a lot of stuff struggles against 6.7 heavies. It's just one of those things where, according to their stats, stuff like the Americans over the last year or so have been doing insanely well. And that is one of those vehicles that does insanely well. It's unfortunate. Well, it's not really unfortunate, but I remember in Operation Frost, pretty much all I did was play Jumbos, Hellcats, and I would back them up with the 76. So my win rates for those vehicles were insane. And I was just playing them to win. I wasn't necessarily playing them to get crazy KDs or anything like that. And because of that, I just ended up in a situation where I can see a lot of other players in, where you spawn in the Hellcat, you get a cap, you get a kill, you get in a plane, you batter in the plane, and then you go back on the ground and you make sure to win the match. It's just as simple as that. Very easy to play, very nice to play, and yeah, so I can see why it's gone up. Any thoughts on the superiority of the Sturm S? I see we have another thought from the committee. Superiority is a very subjective word. And for me, it is definitely not superior at anything apart from maybe being flat, just like the Earth. The next question is, it's stupid with 5.3 heavies, mainly IS-1s. So basically going back to the Easy 8. You can easily pen IS-1s with the Easy 8, with the 76mm. It's not too hard to do. You shoot them in the gun mantlet, so whenever an IS-2 is looking at you, you can hurt it. And whenever it is not looking at you, you can also just hurt it by shooting the side of its turrets. A lot of people struggle with the IS series of tanks because they try and go for the trap shot, which is like under the tracks, and then they just hit the tracks, which is not the way to go. That really isn't. What you have to do is you have to set it up. Oh, that hurts. You have to set it up so, it actually hits it properly. Thoughts on the M26? I've never grooved with the M26. It's one of those vehicles that's kind of in between BRs. Obviously, the main BRs for a long time have been 6.7 and 5.7. So whenever I played the M26, I used to just get up to 6.7. And then I just thought, well, why don't I just play... Why don't I just play the 6.7s that are available, like the T34 at the time? It just makes more sense to me. So pretty much the same mobility and slightly less armor with a really, really good gun. So yeah, it's just one of those machines where I've never grooved with at all. I also played it way back in the day when the AP was... I can't even see this airfield, by the way. I played it way back in the day where the AP was the only really viable round, because the other round had absolutely no penetration to it, and you couldn't pen heavies with it. So then you were stuck using stuff like APCR, and using APCR sucks, as if any of you have ground out a stock M48 will know. Is there any boomer for Germany have more than 6 tons for booms? I'm guessing you mean bomber, because I can point to a bunch of boomers, but definitely no 6-ton boomers. The fact is, Germans struggled with the idea of making large, heavy bombers. And even the ones we have in game, the Grief, it had horrific engine issues, horrific overheating issues when it came to them. When it comes to the ME-264, one of the America bombers, that was only flown without really a bomb load. So there are a lot of bombers out there for the Germans which do have actual really high bomb loads. But guess what? They are bomb loads that they never carried, or the plane themselves never flew. So, where I would have a look, if you're interested in the subject, I would look at the America Bomber program, where stuff like the ME-264 came from, and also many other machines from like Junkers and from other countries. And from other manufacturers like Heinkel. So yeah, give that a go, and you'll be able to find many stats of machines that maybe could carry 6 tons, but actually didn't. The next one is the Easy 8. Oh no, that's fair enough. Going back to the copy-paste tanks, I think the host nation should get a unique tank as well, excluding the Firefly deviants. I think the way that they're doing it now is probably best, where they're actually throwing in new variants of a very similar vehicle to the tech tree. So if you have a look at the Shermans, right? So you got the Sherman 2 for the British, which is slightly different to the other ones. You got the SA-50 for the French, once again slightly different. The M4A4 for the Chinese, obviously different. I think that's the way to go. So if you want to put in a copy-paste vehicle or a similar vehicle, it should at least have some kind of difference to it. Giving it to the host nation as well, I mean, it'll probably come with time. Maybe you could folder it, but I don't think it's a huge thing. I would rather keep a little bit of the uniqueness that is left for those vehicles. Space Race Black Camo be looking pretty good. Yeah, it is nice. Have you tried the J29 barrel with the new BR? If you did, do you think it works better now? I haven't, so I can't really comment. Generally, when stuff gets lower BR'd, it does slightly better. But as I said, I haven't touched it. I am going to touch it a lot over the next few weeks, just so I can kind of get an idea of what is going on with it. Good day, Ariel, and also thank you for the follow. That's very kind of you. And let's see. What if they added the M8 Buford or Thunderbolt 2 to the game? Yeah, screw it, why not? Add them in. Add everything. Let's go crazy. That's pretty much my... Whenever somebody says, what do you think this should be added? Unless it's something like the Peacemaker or something like the Bear, I'm like, yeah, screw it, let's go. What about the M51 Sherman, the 105 French gun on the American chassis operated by Israel? It would be lovely to see that vehicle. It really would. I would enjoy it. Where would it go? US or France? I would personally, so I made a video about a year ago. No, whoa, what am I talking about? A month or two ago? Oh god, I'm getting this quarantine setting me crazy. I made a video maybe a year ago, my god, a month or two ago, talking about the implementation of minor tech trees. So the idea would be, what you would do is you would set up a scenario where you would have an Israeli tech tree attached to the American tech tree, and in that tech tree you would have the M51 and also the M50. And what this would do is it would make it so you were able to have access to those vehicles in the Israeli tech tree. But you would also be able to run it with American vehicles. So it would solve the lineup issue, basically, that you would have. So I would do that. I'm kind of stuck on Soviets 4353. Any suggestions? I keep on ending up in ship positions. One of the issues with those machines is they don't have a lot of gun depression. So what I would say to you is try and fight on flat ground. Their guns are generally quite stable, so you can generally be quite aggressive with them, which is kind of nice. But your armor is very good angled, so make sure to angle it effectively, normally at a 45 degree. And if you are struggling against vehicles such as Shermans or anything with stabilizers, what you have to do is try and tease them out to shoot you, and then once they shoot, you need to counterfire. Because their reverse isn't very good, so pretty much because their reverse isn't very good, and because they are in a situation where they've already fired, you have to capitalize on that. And just, you know, go through that idea. So yeah, that's something you have to think about. You think they'll add Israel in the game? They have a lot of copied tanks like China. I mean, they've added 2 Macavers, right? You know, they've added 2 Macavers. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more